Vikings fall to 1-2 on the preseason, but you don't care about that, do you? I know you don't care about that. You care about Max Brosmer, you little sicko, and I'm here to give you everything you want. Welcome to Locked On Vikings.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Vikings podcast. We're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day every single day. I appreciate my hashtag everydayers so very much. Y'all make the world go round. Today on the show, we're recapping the Vikings 23-13. I barely paid attention to the score. Lost to the Tennessee Titans in the preseason game. You don't have to pay attention to the score. Why would you do that? What I did pay attention to were the position battles that I discussed at the outset that were up on Friday morning. And we got, I think, some pretty good clarity on all of that. The preseason has, I think, answered the questions we need to answer. The biggest one is about Max Brosmer and Brett Rypien, who alternated quarters in this game. So that is as clear of a signal as you can send. Hey, you guys are in a competition for a job. May the best man win. And it was pretty clearly Max Brosmer. I'll discuss some of that and recap some of the major moments that decide that, but you're going to find very few people, if anybody, who disagree there. And then we'll also discuss some of the other intrigues on the roster. Miles Price, what's going on at running back, cornerback, some special team stuff that matters. We'll get into all of it here on the Locked On Vikings podcast, but let's start with the quarterback question, because I know you guys, you can't get enough, you slimy little weirdos. You just can't get enough of that backup quarterback discourse. You cretins, you little gremlins, you know you love it. So I'm actually pretty excited to go into the tape of the Max Brosmer quarters because they were fun. He was ripping it all over the field, pun intended, because Brett Rypien did not play as well at all. Brosmer had, I think there were like one or two misses, but for the most part, it was very accurate. Like, he put the ball where it needed to be. They were all catchable. They were not safe. And I don't mean that to say he was like, didn't take care of the football. I mean to say he took chances and really tested tight windows. Like, he played a really aggressive style and it paid out. He was right to test that window. He proved that he was right to test that window, and he found a way to get the ball in. So it was really cool. It was a really cool game for Max Brosmer, especially like, hey, look, you are a rookie, you know, you're 24, you're not a puppy. You were in college for a long time. You had your COVID and all that. But you're new to all this. And elsewhere in this room, between the Howell and Rypien, the two guys you're competing with, that's 12 years of NFL experience. If I'm right about that off the dome, that's a lot of NFL experience between those two guys. And you're coming in there with basically no consideration at all. You are an undrafted rookie. They got their two veteran guys. They're good with that quarterback room, and they're going to give you one or two plays a practice. You go out on one of those plays. I remember the rep. It was like a scramble drill where he made a really cool play. And then go, okay, well, maybe we'll give you 3 or 4 plays the next time, and you make another play. And all right, well, we'll give you a quarter of a preseason game, and you make some plays in that. Well, we'll give you the whole second half of the next preseason game, and you make more plays. Now you're getting another half of a preseason game. Sam Howell does not play, so it's just Brett Rypien alternating quarters with Max Brosmer. And to go out and have the game that he had, there's some cojones to that. There is just a fortitude that I think is really admirable and cool, even if it doesn't turn into the NFL career you hope he has. I am so won over by Max Brosmer. It's just so cool. On the flip side, Brett Rypien, not so much. So here is how this kind of went down. I think they both did just fine in the first half. Brosmer had a decent field goal drive. Rypien had a drive that looked like it was going to be a scoring drive. He gets hit as he throws, and the ball flutters up to nowhere and gets intercepted. I don't super find that to be his fault. And then we go to halftime. Brosmer's third quarter is like explosive. It's awesome. It's insane. He has this, I think, 6-play touchdown drive that's just beautiful and gorgeous. There's an awesome like rainbow go ball down the sideline. It rules. And then Rypien comes in for the fourth quarter. And after the third quarter that Brosmer had, you got to feel as Brett Rypien, oh, I got to do just as much. I have to ball right now because he has played well and I need to go do the same. I thought the CBS broadcast did a great job, by the way, of framing the game from this angle because it wasn't about the score at all, right? It was about this. It was super cool. And then Rypien comes out a little bit over-torqued. He's missing high, and he's forcing the ball downfield in unwise ways. You can feel the gravity of the moment forcing him into bad decisions. You could just feel it. And I think most everybody would be pretty surprised if Rypien got the QB3 job over Brosmer after that game, considering that it looked so much like a true competition, they're alternating quarters, and that Brosmer clearly outplayed Rypien. It's got to be QB3. I think the real question becomes what happens with Sam Howell now, because Howell, who has had a rough summer, he had a pretty good one preseason game, a bad second preseason game, and a bad camp. He struggled a lot, threw interceptions all over camp. And Brosmer has now done this. Pete Bursich and Ron Johnson have both said this on shows that I've been on in the last several days, and I agree with them, which is that I don't think you want QB2 to be just as inexperienced as QB1. Neither of those guys have played an NFL regular season game, and you don't necessarily want QB2 to be as inexperienced as QB1. The thing about Sam Howell as well is that a bad preseason game doesn't change your opinion of him. You knew you had that in him when you traded for him. You traded a fifth round for a fifth round, right? You traded down 30 spots for him. And the reason the cost was that low is because you knew Sam Howell had this kind of stinker in him that he had last week. He didn't play in this one. He was suited, probably just in case somebody got hurt, but I think you still go with Howell as QB2, even understanding that like Brosmer played better than Howell in this preseason. He did. Absolutely. 100%. But just based off of priors, I think you still can go with Sam Howell and say, hey, if McCarthy goes down, you are veteran enough where you can handle that situation. And I kind of don't need to put this on Brosmer. I don't need to look at Brosmer and say, hey, by the way, be ready every week because you're one twisted ankle away from having the franchise on your shoulders. No. Say, great preseason. You made the team. Here is your game day contract, or your regular season contract, which is, by the way, like 3 times the size of the biggest undrafted rookie contracts. And say, we don't expect anything from you now. You're going to be on scout team. You're going to be learning. This is an internship year for you now, but you're here and you made it and you took that job from Brett Rypien. Congratulations. But no pressure. Now there's no pressure and you can just be in the incubator. And next year, you're probably going to have to compete against somebody else again. And that's going to be the way that camps are for you, but you'll be ready for it because we're going to spend the whole year getting you ready. I think that is what makes sense to me at quarterback after this. There are a lot of other things, though, that happened in this game between, the returning, the holding, the running backs, penalties, guys that need to go update their LinkedIns. We'll get into all of it next on Locked On Vikings. Today's episode is brought to you by Rugiet Ready. You've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis, maybe even tried them, but if you're not satisfied with that or you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. It's a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer for you. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch, and it's completely online. They connect you with a board-certified doctor and ship your treatment discreetly to your door. So head to rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL. Promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. It is almost FanDuel Futures Day. It's August 26th, and that's a brand new holiday for football fans who love to live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on any NFL season prediction, whether you're going for a win total, like Vikings over under 8.5 wins, 9.5 wins. Both of them actually have some interesting value. Or JJ McCarthy over under 35-75 passing yards, or 35-75.5, I think it is exactly. Or even going for, MVP or Super Bowl long shots. Whatever it is, on August 26th, FanDuel will give you deals. This is your moment. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Moving along here with the Locked On Vikings podcast, there are a bunch of other odds and ends on the roster position battle world that the Vikings had. The Titans had a much more interesting day. They played their ones. Even Jeffrey Simmons got in there, right? Which, he just totally dusts poor Joe Huber, who's had to take the worst of, teams playing their ones this year. But I don't see a lot of roster movement on the trenches from this game, to be honest. And the D-tackle position is one that I didn't see a lot from one way or another, which is almost certainly a me issue. I just kind of couldn't suss it out. So I'll get back to you on the D-tackles. And I might not even be able to see how things went before we know who got cut anyways. But in terms of other stuff that you got to know, let's get into Miles Price's day, because he was one of the people with the most at stake. I think in getting a couple of good returns last week, he opened the door for himself to win the punt returner job. Maybe you're not even the wide receiver from scrimmage. Maybe we still go out and do a trade for Adam Thielen or whatever. But you could at least try to get that punt returner job and be the guy. And his first punt return turns out really, really well. Gets called back for penalty, but that's not his fault. He finds the crease, the lane, and he looks like he does a pretty good job. The problem is he bobbles one. It's just one bobble. Didn't muff it, just bobbled it. But not catching those cleanly. And also that happened to him a decent amount in camp as well. If you're Matt Daniels, I don't know if you trust it. And now it's happened in a game. I don't know if you can trust it if you're bobbling these. Eventually, bobbles turn into muffs, and you need to be able to catch every single one cleanly. It's like a basketball player making layups. You kind of just have to be able to step onto a court and knock back 50 of those in a row, and it should be super automatic. But we'll see. I think that Miles Price has very much earned himself a practice squad role, and maybe you kick off a Thayer Thomas or something and go with the newer blood. But I don't think that he has precluded the Vikings from going out and doing a wide receiver thing. By the way, so last time we talked, it was basically just about this Tennessee game. And the last time we talked about wide receiver stuff was a live show where I was talking about the Harrison Phillips thing for most of it. But we've got updates. So the Vikings have been widely reported from both national and local beats, very much, verified and corroborated through everyone's sources, that the Vikings are in the wide receiver market. Jalen Naylor's hurt. Addison's going to be suspended for 3 games. They want some depth to help paper that thing over. There are many names on their list. One of them is Adam Thielen. Now, my thing with this is I thought it'd be hard to get a deal done, and it looks like that was true. It's pretty hard to get a deal done with Carolina. Not that it's a bad idea. I think it'd be great to have Adam Thielen back. I think he perfectly fits. Hey, he's a veteran. He's very forgiving for younger quarterbacks because he can erase inaccuracies, and he runs things properly, and he knows what he's doing, and he knows this. There's all kinds of great advantages, right? But you got to get Carolina, who likes him for all of those same reasons, to let go of him. And this appears to be pretty tough. There was definitely some smoke from, I think, Ben Gessling and national reporters, Pelissero, Rossini, everybody was saying they're talking about Adam Thielen. And it seemed like this was getting pretty close. that there was, I think Andrew Kramer reported that they had agreed on some kind of day 3 pick compensation, but that the problem was the money. The Vikings wanted Carolina to take on some of the money, not unlike the way the Vikings did with Harrison Phillips. Carolina didn't want to do that or didn't want to do as much of that. And it seems like there is an impasse. And now Josina Anderson has come out and said that, that the moment is past, basically. So they might have reached some kind of impasse about the money, the compensation, and they didn't get a deal done. But you sleep on it, your feelings change, right? Somebody gets hurt in a preseason game or whatever. Like all kinds of things can happen, right? Or maybe the Vikings see receivers struggle in the preseason and then go back to the Panthers, call them in the morning and say, hey, sorry, we will take that deal that you offered, right? It's all a negotiation. So I don't think it's completely over, but it does seem like they are at some kind of impasse right now. And I think a circumstance has to change to get that impasse to be relinquished. But that's neither here nor there, because it doesn't just have to be Adam Thielen. They had apparently been calling all around the league to a bunch of different wide receiver things. But at this point, we are 48 hours from cut down day. I think you just hold on to your butts until then and wait for somebody to get cut, or wait for somebody who's about to get cut to call you, to have their team call you and say, what about a 6-7 swap? And we'll take on all the money because we're about to cut this guy anyways, but we would love to get something. That's what you're like hoping for, I think. But they could also get more aggressive and, kick out a bigger draft pick and try to get a bigger splash. Who knows? In the running back world, so Ty Chandler did not play in this game. I think it's similar to Sam Howell, where I don't know if you have your job locked up, but we certainly don't need to see you do it. We know what you are. We know what you can do. And we'd much rather see the young guys and see how they do. And Zavier Scott only played a couple of drives. So I do think that whatever the decision at running back is, it was more or less already made coming into this game. Trey Stewart took on, and Zavier Valade, was that his name? Took most of the running back reps, and neither of them looked particularly great. I think Trey Stewart actually did a pretty bad job of picking through the holes. I thought Valade looked okay, but when you join right before the last preseason game, you're pretty much just there for the weekend's paycheck. So I think that in my last preseason, in my last 53-man prediction, I had both Chandler and Scott making the team because I just had room to do it. It was the luxury, but I couldn't really think of anybody else I wanted to replace them with. So I did it. It might be a little bit harder because when I did that 53-man prediction, it was before the Patriots game, and I wasn't quite on the Elijah Williams train as much as I am now. But I do kind of want to take another gander at Elijah Williams' game and see if he played well. Also, I know Tyler Fournette might have noticed it. Tyler, I don't know if you were able to verify this or not, but I'm going to mention something to look out for is that he might have got hurt in this game, or maybe he just got pulled for the day. I don't know, but something to keep in mind. Another thing I'm going to mention before we get into the sort of concerns that come out of this game, if there can be concerns in the second half of the last preseason game. But we'll get into that. But first, real quick, so many penalties on especially on O-line. There was a hands to the face, there were holdings, there were special teams penalties, there was a block in the back. There's a lot of penalties. James Lynch in particular had this offense in a blender, which it's the third team offense. Who cares? But good for you, James Lynch. It's nice to see you still thriving in this league. But there were a lot of penalties, and they were all from guys that needed a perfect game to stay in the building. From your Joe Hubers, your Logan Browns, your Vershawn Lees. It's really rough for those guys because that becomes that's the only time your name gets called in the game, right? And it sort of becomes the big scarlet letter on your day. Even if you had a decent day from the nuanced details and your position coach says you played fine, but you got that penalty. And it really, really sucks. And I think it helps to really delineate. I think there is a clear line after the 9th offensive lineman that just sheds everybody else. And I think maybe there's more intrigue on who makes the practice squad among the Vershawn Lees and the Joe Hubers and even the Michael Gonzalez's, who played a little bit of center on the third team after Zeke Correll went down. Okay, so there's a big question at cornerback, and then there's a bunch of special team stuff that I have to go over. So we're far from done We'll keep going next on Locked On Vikings. This episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner, and boy, can't you feel it? Can't you feel the fantasy football in the air? The suddenly I care about two players in this Thursday night football game because I really got to beat Joe from accounting. You can feel it, right? You can just taste it in the air. This year, I am playing fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran creating your millionth league. Yahoo Fantasy is loaded with fun ways to compete and brand new features that make the game even better. With season kickoff on September 4th, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. If you want more ways to play, try the brand new Fantasy Guillotine League mode where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until one team is left standing. And if you want to play instantly with friends, try the new Draft with Friends mode. Or if you prefer the classics, you can get a crew together and go head-to-head in a private league. And if you have no crew, no problem. Join a public league, which is the easiest way to play. The NFL season kicks off September 4th. So don't wait, start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. Before we move on, an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that is lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. I really want you to do that. A lot of you have had thoughts about which advertisers we work with, how those ads go, whether or not you support what we are doing. If you have those thoughts, this is the time to share them. I can't always respond to that, but we do see it, and I would love for you to put those thoughts in the survey so that you can let the network know how you feel. Okay, let's move on with the rest of the owl. So a real quick note about cornerback, but really special teams, I think, is where the most action happened in this one, as it often is with a preseason game. But corners had a rough day. Mekhi Blackmon had one holding penalty. I thought it was meh. I thought it was okay. I mean, he did grab it. It was letter of the law, but I do think you can get away with that one a lot. So I'm not super worried about it, and I thought he was mostly in the right place. I thought Mekhi Blackmon had a perfectly fine day, and I think that him as the backup Byron Murphy has been a lock for some time. So there's not much intrigue there. Where the intrigue is Zamiah Vaughn and Dwight McGlothern. These guys have been in competition for depth chart position. Again, this is a situation where I could see them keeping both. But they have played basically opposite each other on the defense for most of the preseason, and they both had awful days. This is one where it got interesting for bad reasons, and I don't know if it's either of these guys now after that game. It's a really bad taste to leave in the decision-makers' mouths. The big play came from Zamiah Vaughn, who is in a cover zero look and gets absolutely ankle broken by Van Jefferson on a quick out, and it turns into a 60-plus yard touchdown. This is catastrophic. This is the exact thing that you cannot have. This is what Flores risks every time he does that cover zero look. And the fact that this never happened in cover zero is a testament to how guys like Stephon Gilmore and Shaq Griffin and even Patrick Peterson in 2023 played. Stephon Gilmore and Shaq Griffin and even guys of old like a Caleb Evans or whatever. It's a testament to how they played that this kind of thing never happened, because they are truly on an island in this spot. If you can't vision what I'm talking about, those plays where all the Vikings are lined up on the line of scrimmage and then every corner is like 7 to 10 yards off. In those plays, you are one-on-one with a guy, you have no help behind you, and you have no help coming from inside because they're all blitzing. So you have to make that open field tackle. What you cannot do is get caught too deep where you kind of run forward too fast, get juked, and then the guy's gone. You just can't do that. You can't even risk that. You know, even if you came forward and you made the play, you would still be like, okay, great job, but like play that a little safer because they might have had a better move on you in the regular season. You just cannot do that. And Zamiah Vaughn has struggled from that very Flores-y position in particular, such that it might be enough where Flores says, great camp, but practice squad for now. I don't think the book is written on him at all, and I don't think he's played well enough to get claimed, especially because that just became the most high-profile moment of his preseason. Everybody's going to see that thing on a SportsCenter top 10 and go, okay, 34 is off our list. So I think you can safely put him on the practice squad if you want to. Problem is, who else takes the job? And by the way, Dwight McGlothern didn't exactly achieve glory either. He got beat downfield a couple times. He missed a couple tackles, and he has struggled with tackling all preseason. So I don't know if either of those guys actually make this team. But the best thing they have going for them is, what do you put on Ambry Thomas instead? Like, what do you do instead? Khalif Hailasi, who's missed more tackles. Tavier Thomas is maybe one, but he's had his fair share of mistakes as well. The sort of third team, who's the last guy on the depth chart, the 9th and 10th defensive backs, just doesn't feel like anybody wants to be that guy. And maybe it becomes a waiver claim. Maybe somebody from another team comes and joins, some kind of veteran. Or maybe you bring in a Stephon Gilmore after all and just add him to this rotation, which would actually make me feel a lot better about the room. Oh, I also want to shout out Jay Ward, who did get hurdled. I think that was more of an insane play by that running back than it was Jay Ward doing anything in particular wrong, but it sucks to be on the wrong end of that highlight. But he was all over the field for the rest of the game. I think he had a really nice day, and if there's any questions about his roster spot, I think that he answered them pretty handily, even in spite of that hurdle. Special teams. So you may look at the box score and see that Will Reichard missed 2 field goals and get worried. Will Reichard is not the one you should be worried about. There were 2 misses, and neither of them you're mad at Will Reichard. One was from 63 yards and might have been good from 62. It was actually a really good kick, but it was from 63. And the other one was also a reasonably long one, but Oscar Chapman was the holder, and he blew the hold. He didn't get it down, and he didn't get the ball spun the way you want it to, so it came off of Reichard's leg funny, and it sailed wide. 100% that one is on Oscar Chapman to me. He didn't get the laces pointed in or anything like that, but the laces were pointed toward Oscar Chapman, which is wrong. That is wrong, and it's bad for the kicker, and it took him a long time to get that ball down, so the timing of the operation was also a little wonky. That might be enough. I thought Ryan Wright had a fine day punting. He had one 39-yarder that had a lot of hang time. It was a 39-yarder with a fair catch, but that's still not like an excellent punt. But he also did the holding cleanly, and everything else worked cleanly. So Ryan Wright might have fended off what was a very serious challenge from Oscar Chapman, just by virtue of screwing up the one time you went in to go be a holder. And Will Reichard gets a say. That was what they were talking about on the broadcast with like Charles Davis, that Will Reichard does get to say, hey, I like it when he's my holder better. And like his comfort level is a really important facet of this. You want your kicker to be comfortable, and who your holder is like a really big part of that. And then there's one more wrinkle to this roster. You know, I've been talking about how hard it is to find player 52, player 53 on this roster. And one guy that has emerged in a pure special teams sense, he has not been good on defense at all, is Chaz Chambliss. He's been terrible on defense. But on special teams, last week, he caught my eye on a kickoff when he took one of his blockers and shoved him into the returner, and the returner fell down. He tackled the returner with one of his blockers. It was a really cool play. And he made a couple of other really good plays on kickoffs in this one as well. How useful he is in all the other units, I'm not all that familiar with. I'll have to go look, but my eye is very much on him as a maybe you make the team just by virtue of special teams kind of guy. Problem is that would be like 13 linemen, but all your D-backs suck. So maybe it works. I don't know. But at least somebody who has found a way to maybe make the practice squad and be like a game day elevation for special teams reasons sometimes. Is Chaz may have found that, and there's a lot of money in that matters to these guys who are on the bubble. There's a lot of money in 2 game checks. I mean, that's 5 to 6 digit amounts of money sometimes. That can be really important. So these games are, you have to understand, if you're the kind of person that's just been bored with the preseason and you're so glad it's over, that's fine. It is over. Congratulations. You can, the next time you watch the Vikings, it'll count for real. But you've got to understand that for guys like Brosmer, for guys like Chaz Chambliss, for guys like Miles Price or Zavier Scott, this is their Super Bowl. This is their chance to go from an interesting preseason promise to life-changing money. Life-changing money. Even if you're on the bottom of the roster, you're still making like $800,000 a year. Life-changing. And it all comes down to how they do against the Titans backups, who, by the way, are all playing for the same thing. So these guys play like it's the Super Bowl. And you get to see what happens to people under emotional pressure. I think that's so compelling and interesting from like a reality TV almost perspective. I think it's so... I revere and appreciate the opportunity to see what happens to people in that situation. Do they rise to it like Brosmer? Do they over torque it like Brett Rippon? Do they get nervous and bobble a punt? Do they make a bunch of mental mistakes and get penalties? Do they, bobble a hold because they're a little nervous? It matters so much to all of these guys. And that's what we just saw. So cut down day is always a rough day in the organization. Nobody likes cut down day in the organization, but that'll be Tuesday, I believe. Here's my plan. There'll be a show up on Monday morning that's going to be a 53-man roster projection. Cuts may have already started by then, but I don't know if any surprising ones will be there, but we'll do a final 53-man roster projection. Just so that my calls are out there, I'll let you know right now. I'm probably going to keep Zavier Scott and Ty Chandler still. I'm probably going to still keep my free agent / trade TBD guy. I'm going to keep Max Brosmer. I don't know how much I'm changing about my 53-man roster. What I'm going to try to figure out is whether or not I want to put Elijah Williams on there. He wasn't on my last one. I'm going to decide if I want to make that call. But Harrison Phillips was on my last one too, so maybe that call gets made for me. But Taki Taimani's in this too. It'll be interesting. I will see you all for that on Monday morning. And as always, Skull.